The text message came through at 11 in the morning. "Borrowed your vintage bracelet for the gala tonight, Grandma Helena. You won't mind. Not a question, a statement. As if my belongings were hers to take whenever she pleased." I stared at those words on my phone screen, sitting in my sunroom where I'd watched 43 years of seasons change through these windows. My fingers didn't tremble as I typed back, "Enjoy yourself, dear." Then I did something my daughter-in-law would never expect from a 73-year-old woman she'd spent 8 years treating like furniture. I called my attorney, Richard Chen, and said 5 words that would change everything. "Activate Protocol Sapphire, item number 412. Richard's pause lasted exactly 3 seconds. "Helena, are you absolutely certain? Once we do this, there's no going back." "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." "Then God help her. That bracelet is worth $4.2 million. 90 minutes later, police would raid the Metropolitan Art Foundation Gala, where my daughter-in-law Vivienne was showing off what she thought was a pretty but worthless antique. She had no idea she'd just stolen one of the most valuable pieces of Art Deco jewelry in private hands, a sapphire and platinum bracelet that once belonged to a European duchess. But to understand why I made that call, why I watched with cold satisfaction as my son's wife was led away in handcuffs in front of 300 of the city's elite, you need to know what the past 8 years have been like. My name is Helena Whitmore. I'm 73 years old, and for nearly a decade, I've been invisible in my own home. The house my late husband built for us, the rooms where we raised our son, the garden where we planned our retirement. All of it became a stage where I played the role of unwanted extra in someone else's life. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. Vivienne entered our family 8 years ago when she married my son Thomas. From the moment she walked through the door of this house, she looked at me like I was a problem to be solved rather than a person to be known. She was beautiful in that sharp, calculated way, always dressed in cream and navy, always wearing jewelry that cost more than most people's cars, always speaking in that particular tone that made everything sound like she was doing you a favor by acknowledging your existence. "Helena, I'll need you to prepare lunch for my book club tomorrow. Nothing too elaborate, just something that won't embarrass Thomas." That was how she spoke to me, not asking, informing. "Helena, could you perhaps not shuffle around so much in the mornings? The sound of your footsteps wakes me and I need my sleep." "Helena, I think it might be time to consider assisted living. This house is quite large for someone your age to manage." That last one she said at least once a month, usually when Thomas was in earshot. She wanted this house, my house, the home where every corner held a memory of my husband Marcus, who died 9 years ago after 42 years of marriage. At family dinners, she would talk about me as if I were a piece of difficult furniture. "Thomas, your mother really should think about downsizing. She can't possibly need all these rooms, and the maintenance costs must be astronomical." My son would look uncomfortable but say nothing, just like he said nothing when Vivienne started introducing me at social events as Thomas's mother who lives with us. In my own house that I'd paid for with Marcus's life insurance and my own career as a university librarian, she had plans for my home. Oh, I heard all about them during her phone calls with her interior designer friend. "Once Helena finally moves out, we'll gut the first floor, make it all open concept. That horrible library will become my home office. The garden is wasted space. We'll put in a pool and entertainment pavilion." For 8 years, I endured her cold dismissals, her cutting remarks about my outdated clothing and provincial tastes, her constant suggestions that I was too old, too forgetful, too much of a burden to justify living in my own home. What Vivian never knew, what no one in my family knew except Richard, was that my husband Marcus had left me more than just this house. Much more. Marcus had been a quiet genius with investments. While he worked as an architect, he'd been building a portfolio that included rare art, antique jewelry, first edition books, and strategic real estate purchases. He'd been careful, secretive even, because he understood that visible wealth attracts the wrong kind of attention. In a climate-controlled vault hidden behind a false wall in my bedroom closet, he'd left a collection worth approximately $18 million. Among those pieces was the sapphire bracelet Vivian had just taken, Protocol Sapphire, as Richard and I called it in our carefully documented inventory system. The bracelet was purchased by Marcus in 1979 from a private European estate sale. Art Deco period, designed by Cartier in 1924, featuring 19 perfectly matched sapphires totaling 38 carats, set in hand-engraved platinum. Valued at $4.2 million by 3 independent appraisers. To anyone who didn't know jewelry, it looked like an elegant vintage piece. Pretty, but not extraordinary. Vivian had seen it dozens of times in my jewelry box, the small wooden case where I kept my everyday pieces, the decoys, as Richard called them. This morning, I'd watched her enter my room while I pretended to be absorbed in reading on the terrace. I saw her go through my jewelry box with the entitled casualness of someone who believed everything in this house was essentially hers already. I watched her hold the bracelet up to the light, saw that calculating look cross her face. An hour later, the text message arrived, not asking permission, not even offering a polite fiction of respect, just taking what she wanted because in her world, I was too old and insignificant to have anything worth protecting. That's when I made the call to Richard. "Helena," he'd said after the initial shock, "the insurance company requires immediate reporting for items in this value category. The police will be involved within the hour. Are you prepared for what happens next?" "Richard, I've been preparing for 8 years. Tell me exactly what you want to do." "I want every legal protection activated. I want the theft reported with full documentation. And I want Vivian to understand exactly who she's been dismissing as a feeble old woman." As Richard made the necessary calls, I sat in Marcus's study, the room Vivian wanted to convert into a meditation space, and I thought about all the small cruelties that had led to this moment. I remembered the time Vivian hosted a dinner party for Thomas's business associates and told me to eat in my bedroom because the dining room will be crowded enough without adding extra place settings. I'd built that dining room table with Marcus. We'd hosted hundreds of meals there. I remembered last Christmas when Vivian gave me a gift card to a discount store while opening designer handbags and silk scarves from Thomas. "We kept it simple for you, Helena," she'd said with that sharp smile. "At your age, you don't need much." I remembered the afternoon I'd overheard her on the phone with her sister. "I'm telling you, this old woman is impossible. She acts like she owns the place. Oh wait, technically she does, which is the whole problem. Thomas and I are just waiting for her to either move out voluntarily or become incompetent, enough that we can make the decision for her." That conversation had been 6 months ago. It was the moment I'd asked Richard to start documenting everything, to make sure every piece in Marcus's collection was legally registered, insured, and protected by ironclad documentation. My phone rang. "Richard, it's done. The insurance company has filed the theft report. Police are en route to the Metropolitan Art Foundation with a warrant to recover stolen property valued at $4.2 million. I gave them the exact description of the bracelet and confirmed it was taken without your permission." "How long until they arrive at the gala?" "They're probably pulling up right now." I walked to my bedroom and opened the hidden vault. Inside were the other pieces from Marcus's collection. paintings by artists whose names would make auction houses salivate, jewelry that had adorned European royalty, first editions signed by authors who'd changed literature. All of it carefully cataloged, all of it protected by legal documentation that would stand up to any challenge. Vivian had been stealing from me for 2 years. Not the major pieces, she wasn't that bold or that knowledgeable, but small items. A pearl necklace here, a silver compact there. Things she thought I wouldn't miss or would assume I'd misplaced in my supposed senility. Richard had been quietly tracking every theft, every pawn shop transaction, every online sale. We had proof of 14 separate incidents totaling $68,000 in stolen property. Vivian had been funding her luxury lifestyle by robbing me blind, all while suggesting I was too mentally declining to live independently. The phone rang again. Thomas this time. His voice was pure panic. "Mother, what have you done?" "The police just arrested Vivian at the gala. They're saying she stole a $4 million bracelet. This has to be a mistake. You need to call them right now and explain this is all a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding, Thomas. What are you talking about? That old bracelet can't possibly be worth $4 million. Mother, are you confused? Did you tell the police wrong information?" "Thomas, that bracelet was purchased by your father in 1979 for $350,000. It's now worth $4.2 million. It's been professionally appraised 3 times in the last 2 years. Your wife stole it from my room this morning without permission." Silence. Then, "Father had things worth that much? Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because your father understood that visible wealth attracts predators, and it seems he was right." "Mother, Vivian didn't steal anything. She borrowed a bracelet. She texted you. She informed me after taking it. That's not borrowing, Thomas. That's theft." "This is insane." "Do you know what you've done? Vivian is being treated like a criminal in front of everyone we know. Her friends are recording this. Her reputation is destroyed." "Perhaps she should have thought about that before stealing from me." "She didn't steal. She made a mistake about the value. Thomas, your wife has been stealing from me for 2 years. Small pieces at first, then larger ones. Richard has documentation of every theft, every pawn shop transaction, every lie she told to sell my property." The silence on the other end was absolute. "What are you saying?" His voice was smaller now. "I'm saying your wife is a thief who has been systematically robbing me while convincing you I was too senile to notice. And now she's made the mistake of taking something so valuable that I can't ignore it anymore." I hung up on my son for the first time in his 42 years of life. For 30 minutes, I sat in Marcus's chair, looking out at the garden we'd planted together. The roses we'd chosen for our anniversary, the stone path he'd laid himself, the bench where we'd planned to grow old together before cancer took him at 64. Vivian had wanted to rip it all out for a swimming pool. Richard arrived with Detective Sarah Martinez and another investigator named James Park. They were from the Art Theft Division, apparently stealing a $4 million bracelet warranted specialists. "Mrs. Whitmore," Detective Martinez said, with genuine respect in her voice, "I need to confirm some details. The bracelet your daughter-in-law took. You did not give her permission to wear it." "I did not. I have the text message where she informed me after taking it." "And you're certain of the bracelet's value?" Richard handed her a thick folder. 3 independent appraisals from the last 18 months, certificates of authenticity, purchase records from 1979, insurance documentation, all of it proving the bracelet is worth $4.2 million. Detective Martinez reviewed the documents with increasing interest. "Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Chen mentioned there might be additional thefts?" 14 separate incidents over 2 years totaling $68,000 in stolen property. Detective Park opened his laptop. We'd like to document everything, but I have to ask, why didn't you report the earlier thefts? I looked at both detectives. Because I needed to be absolutely certain. My daughter-in-law has spent 8 years telling everyone I'm senile, that I forget things, that I can't be trusted to manage my own affairs. If I'd reported the small thefts immediately, she would have convinced everyone I was confused and accusatory. I needed ironclad proof that would stand up against any claim of mental incompetence. Detective Martinez nodded slowly. That's unfortunately common in elder abuse cases. Family members gaslight the victim to cover their crimes. Exactly. For the next 3 hours, I told them everything, not just about the thefts, but about the psychological abuse, the constant suggestions that I should move out, the dismissive treatment, the way Vivian had been isolating me from my son while planning to take over my home. Richard added the documentation we'd been quietly building, recordings of Vivian at pawn shops lying about the jewelry's origin, photographs she'd taken of other pieces in the collection, evidence she'd been planning bigger thefts, financial records showing her spending far exceeded what she and Thomas earned legitimately. Mrs. Whitmore, Detective Park said, your daughter-in-law is in serious trouble. Grand larceny of this magnitude carries significant prison time. How much time? With her cooperation and a plea deal, maybe 5 to 7 years. If she fights it and we prove all the additional thefts, could be 15 to 20. The doorbell rang. Thomas, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 hours. Mother, I need to talk to you. Please. The detectives excused themselves to examine the vault documentation, leaving us alone in the living room where Vivian had so often held court, treating me like an unwelcome guest. Mother, I just came from the police station. Vivian is being held on $4 million in bail. $4 million. We can't possibly... He stopped. Why didn't you tell me? About Father's collection? About the money? Would you have believed me? Or would Vivian have convinced you I was confused? He closed his eyes. She's been telling me for months that you were declining. That you were forgetting things. Losing things. I thought... His voice broke. God, Mother, what have I done? You chose to believe the woman you married over the mother who raised you. The police showed me evidence. Recordings of Vivian at pawn shops. She's been stealing from you for years. While I stood by and watched her treat you like I was invisible. Like I was a burden. Like I was too stupid and senile to deserve basic respect. Thomas put his face in his hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Are you sorry for what she did, Thomas? Or are you sorry that I turned out to have enough power to fight back? He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry I let her make you feel small. I'm sorry I didn't defend you. I'm sorry I believed her when she said you were declining instead of seeing she was manipulating both of us. It was the first real apology I'd heard from him in 8 years. What happens now? He asked. Now? Your wife faces the consequences of her actions. She stole from me. She planned to steal more. She psychologically abused me for 8 years, and she did it all while trying to have me declared incompetent so she could take everything. Take everything? What are you talking about? Richard stepped back into the room. Mr. Whitmore, we have evidence your wife has been consulting with an attorney about challenging your mother's mental competence. She's been documenting what she claimed were signs of dementia, most of which we now know were situations created by hiding your mother's possessions and then pointing out she couldn't find them. Thomas looked physically ill. She was going to have Mother declared incompetent? The plan was to institutionalize her, gain control of her assets, and then gradually sell off the collection. We found detailed appraisals and sales projections in her personal computer files. My son stared at me. "Mother, how much is the entire collection worth?" "Approximately $18 million. He sat down heavily. $18 million, and she was going to steal it all while having me locked away in a care facility. Part 2. Thomas stayed silent for a long time, processing the magnitude of his wife's betrayal, not just against me, but against him as well. She'd been using him, manipulating him, turning him against his own mother to cover her systematic theft. "I need to see all of it," he finally said. "The collection. Everything Father left. I need to understand what I've been blind to." I led him to my bedroom, to the hidden vault Marcus had installed 3 decades ago. When I opened it, Thomas gasped. The walls were lined with climate-controlled display cases, paintings in archival frames, jewelry in velvet-lined boxes, first-edition books in protective sleeves, each piece tagged with a discrete identification number. "My God," Thomas whispered. "Father collected all this." "Your father understood the difference between appearing wealthy and being wealthy. He knew that displays of money attract parasites, so he lived simply and invested brilliantly." Thomas moved slowly through the vault, reading the discrete labels. A Modigliani sketch valued at $2 million, a set of Victorian ruby jewelry worth $800,000, a signed first edition of The Great Gatsby worth $350,000. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked, touching a frame gently. "I was going to. When the time was right. But then Vivian entered our lives, and I realized the time would never be right. Your father's instinct about keeping wealth private was correct. What happens to all this now? Now that people know?" Richard spoke from the doorway. "That depends on Helena. The collection is properly documented and secured. The question is whether she wants to pursue full prosecution against Vivian." Thomas turned to me. "Mother, I know what Vivian did is unforgivable. But is there any way, any possible way, this could be resolved without sending her to prison? She's still my wife. The mother of—" He stopped. "The mother of what, Thomas?" He swallowed hard. "We've been trying to have children." "Vivian's pregnant. 6 weeks." The room went silent. "She didn't tell you?" Thomas asked, seeing my expression. "She told me 3 days ago, not as happy news. She told me that once the baby arrived, I would definitely need to move out because children require space, and she couldn't have me shuffling around disturbing the baby's sleep schedule." Thomas looked like I'd slapped him. "She said that to you?" "Those exact words. Your wife wasn't planning to give you a grandmother, Thomas. She was planning to use pregnancy as the final excuse to remove me from my own home." Detective Martinez stepped into the vault. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need to inform you that we found something else during our investigation of Vivian's electronics." She held up a tablet. "Your daughter-in-law has been running a much larger operation than we initially thought. She's been using her social connections to identify other wealthy elderly women, photograph their possessions during charity events and private gatherings, and sell that information to organize theft rings." Thomas went pale. "What?" "We've identified at least 9 other families who've been victimized. The total value of thefts connected to your wife's information network exceeds $7 million. The FBI is taking over the case." The FBI. Vivian hadn't just stolen from me. She'd been running a criminal enterprise. Detective Park added, "We found communications suggesting Vivian specifically married into your family because she knew about your mother's collection. She spent months researching the Whitmore family before engineering her first meeting with you, Mr. Whitmore." The words hung in the air like poison. "No," Thomas said weakly. "No, we met at a charity auction. It was random." Was it? Detective Martinez pulled up files on the tablet. These emails show Vivian researching your family 3 months before that auction. She knew your mother had a significant collection. She knew you were an only child. She knew your father had recently died. She targeted you deliberately. Thomas looked at me with devastated eyes. My entire marriage was a lie? I'm sorry, son. He stood abruptly. I need air. I need to think. After he left, Richard asked the question I'd been dreading. Helena, what do you want to do? You have enough evidence to put Vivian away for decades, but she's pregnant with your grandchild. I walked to the window overlooking the garden. Marcus and I had planted those roses expecting to watch grandchildren play among them someday. Now my first grandchild would be born while their mother was in prison. What are my options? Full prosecution. She faces 20 years or more. Partial prosecution. We focus on your case only. She faces 5 to 8 years. Or you could decline to press charges entirely, though the FBI case will proceed regardless. If I decline to press charges, what happens? The FBI case continues. She'll still face significant prison time, but your testimony about the years of abuse and theft won't be part of it. She might get a lighter sentence. And if I testify, you guarantee she serves maximum time. You also guarantee the full truth comes out about how she's treated you. I thought about 8 years of being invisible, 8 years of being dismissed and demeaned, 8 years of watching my son choose his wife's version of reality over his own mother. But I also thought about a child who would be born into this chaos, an innocent life that didn't ask to be conceived by a criminal. I want to talk to her. Richard and the detectives exchanged glances. Helena, that's not advisable. I don't care about advisable. I want to face her one time without her being able to hide behind charm or manipulation. Arrange it. 2 days later, I sat across from Vivian in a police interrogation room. She looked different without her designer armor. No makeup, no carefully styled hair, no cream-colored silk to project elegance. Just a woman in an orange jumpsuit who'd finally run out of people to manipulate. Helena, she started. Thank God you're here. This is all such a terrible misunderstanding. Stop. She blinked. I'm not here to be manipulated. I'm here to tell you exactly what's going to happen. For the first time in 8 years, Vivian looked genuinely afraid of me. The FBI has enough evidence to send you to prison for 20 years, I continued. The theft ring you've been running, the families you've victimized, the systematic way you targeted and married my son to gain access to my collection, it's all documented. I never meant to hurt anyone. You just wanted money that wasn't yours. You wanted status you hadn't earned. You wanted a life you were willing to steal to achieve. Tears started down her face. I'm pregnant, Helena. I'm carrying your grandchild. You can't send me to prison now. You told me about the pregnancy as a weapon, as another way to push me out of my home. Did you think I'd forget that? I was scared. I didn't know how to tell Thomas. I panicked and said stupid things. You've been saying stupid things to me for 8 years. The difference is, now there are consequences. Vivian's tears increased. Please, Helena. I'm begging you. I'll give everything back. I'll move out. I'll never speak to you again. Just don't testify against me. Let me have my baby outside of prison. I studied her. Even now, even facing decades in prison, she was trying to manipulate me, using tears and the baby as leverage. Vivian, do you know what hurt the most? It wasn't the theft. It wasn't even the plans to have me declared incompetent. It was 8 years of being treated like I was nothing, like I was so worthless that you didn't even need to bother being polite. You were so certain I was powerless that you didn't even try to hide your contempt. I was wrong. I see that now. I was terrible to you and I'm sorry. Are you sorry you hurt me? Or are you sorry you got caught?" She didn't answer. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "The FBI will prosecute you for the theft ring regardless of what I do. That's out of my control. But the charges related to stealing from me, the psychological abuse, the plans to have me institutionalized, those charges I can influence." Hope sparked in her eyes. "I'm going to give you one chance. You will plead guilty to all charges. You will provide complete cooperation with the FBI investigation. You will testify against everyone involved in the theft ring, and in exchange, I will advocate for you to serve your sentence in a minimum security facility with a mother-infant program." "What does that mean?" "It means you'll give birth in custody, but the baby can stay with you for the first 18 months while you serve your sentence. After that, Thomas will take custody and you'll continue serving your time." "How long?" "With cooperation and good behavior? Probably 8 years. Your child will be 9 when you're released." Vivian's face crumpled. 8 years of my child's life? "Yes, 8 years. The same amount of time you spent stealing from me and planning to destroy my life. It seems appropriate. And if I don't take this deal, then I testify to everything, every humiliation, every theft, every moment you made me feel worthless in my own home, and you'll serve 20 years in a maximum security facility. Your child will be 20 when you meet them." She was crying openly now. "Why are you doing this? Why not just destroy me completely?" "Because unlike you, Vivian, I understand the difference between justice and revenge. You deserve to face consequences, but that baby deserves a chance at having a mother, even if that mother is a criminal." I stood to leave. "Helena," she called out, "what about Thomas?" "What about our marriage?" "Thomas is filing for divorce, but he's agreed to raise your child with full knowledge of who their mother is and what she did. That child will grow up knowing the truth, all of it." "And you? Will you be in the baby's life?" I paused at the door. "That depends entirely on whether you use the next 8 years to become someone worthy of having raised my grandchild. If you do the work, if you genuinely change, then maybe. But you'll never live in my house again. You'll never have access to my family's assets, and you'll never again be in a position to hurt me or anyone I love." I walked out, leaving her to contemplate 8 years of consequences for 8 years of cruelty. 6 months later, I sat in Marcus's garden, now fully restored and more beautiful than ever. Thomas had helped me replant everything Vivian had let die through neglect. The roses were blooming again. My son visited every day now. We were rebuilding our relationship slowly, honestly, without the poisonous influence of his ex-wife between us. "Mother," he said, joining me on the bench, "I heard from Vivian's attorney. She's agreed to your terms. Full cooperation with the FBI. Guilty plea on all charges. She'll be sentenced next month." "How do you feel about that?" "Honestly, relieved. She destroyed so many lives, not just yours. The other families she helped victimize, some of them lost irreplaceable heirlooms. One elderly woman ended up in a nursing home because the stress of the theft gave her a stroke. Vivian deserves to face consequences." "And the baby?" Thomas's hand went to his pocket, pulling out a sonogram image. "A girl, due in 3 months. I looked at the grainy image. My granddaughter. A child who would be born into such complicated circumstances. I'm going to raise her right, Mother. I'm going to teach her about honesty and respect and the difference between appearing successful and actually being a person of character. You'll be a wonderful father. I hope so, and I hope you'll help me. I know I have no right to ask after everything I allowed to happen. Thomas, you're my son, and that baby is my granddaughter. Of course I'll help." We sat in silence watching butterflies dance among the roses. Mother, I need to ask you something. The collection, are you going to keep it hidden forever? No, I've been talking with Richard about establishing a foundation. The Whitmore collection will be housed in a private museum, free admission for students and seniors, educational programs about art and history. It's what your father would have wanted. And the house? The house stays mine until I die. Then it becomes part of the foundation, a teaching space and curator residence. You'll have a generous trust fund and some personal pieces with sentimental value. But the bulk of the collection will serve the public. Thomas nodded. That's perfect. It means Vivian gets nothing in the end except the knowledge that the fortune she tried to steal is helping people instead. Exactly. A few weeks later, Richard called with news. Helena, the FBI wrapped up the case. Vivian's testimony led to 14 arrests. They recovered over $6 million in stolen property. She's being credited with bringing down one of the largest elder-targeted theft rings on the East Coast. How long is her sentence? Judge gave her 8 years with possibility of parole after 6 for cooperation. She'll be in the mother-infant program at the minimum security facility like you advocated for. Good. Helena, I have to tell you, what you did was remarkable. You could have destroyed her completely, but you found a way to get justice while still protecting your grandchild's future. That takes a rare kind of strength. After we hung up, I walked through the house that was finally, truly mine again. No more walking on eggshells. No more being treated like furniture. No more watching someone plan to steal everything I had left of Marcus. The doorbell rang. A delivery. Flowers from one of the families Vivian had victimized. Thank you for your courage in testifying, the card read. Because of you, we recovered my mother's stolen jewelry, and the people who hurt her are facing justice. You gave us closure we never thought possible. There were dozens of similar messages over the following weeks. Families grateful that Vivian's testimony had helped solve their cases. Elderly women who'd been victimized thanking me for speaking up. But the message that meant the most came from an unexpected source. It was a letter from Vivian, written from the mother-infant facility where she was serving her sentence. Helena, it began, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I've started therapy here, real therapy, not the kind where I manipulate the therapist into telling me what I want to hear. I'm beginning to understand what I did to you, not just the theft, but the deeper cruelty of making you invisible, of treating you like you were worthless because you weren't useful to me anymore. My daughter was born last week. I named her Clara, after your mother. I hope that's acceptable. When I hold her, I think about what kind of woman I want her to become. And I realize she needs to be nothing like the woman I was. She needs to be someone who values people for who they are, not what they can give her. I have 8 years to become someone worthy of being her mother. 8 years to truly change instead of just pretending to change to get what I want. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try. Not for you, not for Thomas, but for Clara. She deserves better than the woman I was. Thank you for giving me the chance to try. I read the letter 3 times. Maybe it was another manipulation. Maybe Vivian was still playing games. But maybe, just maybe, 8 years of consequences would actually change her. Time would tell. 3 years passed. The Whitmore Foundation opened to tremendous community support. Thousands of students and seniors visited annually to see Marcus's collection and participate in educational programs. Thomas had become a devoted father to Clara. I saw my granddaughter every week, watching her grow into a bright, curious child who loved books and art and questions about everything. Vivian called Clara once a week from prison. Short, supervised conversations where she told her daughter about the classes she was taking, the therapy she was doing, the person she was trying to become. Is she really changing? I asked Thomas after one of these calls. I think so. Her therapist says she's doing genuine work on understanding why she became someone who could hurt others so callously. It's not pretty. She's having to face a lot of ugly truths about herself. Good. Real change is supposed to be uncomfortable. When Clara turned 3, she asked me a question. Grandma Helena, why doesn't my mommy live with us? Thomas and I had prepared for this conversation. We'd agreed to always tell Clara the truth in age-appropriate ways. Your mommy made some very serious mistakes, I told her. She hurt people and took things that didn't belong to her. So she's in a place where people go when they break important rules. Like time out? Yes, like a very long time out. When does time out end? When she's learned important lessons about being kind and honest and respecting other people. Clara thought about this. Are you mad at my mommy for the mistakes? I considered how to answer. I was very angry. She hurt me and other people, but I'm also proud of her for trying to learn and change. Being able to change after making mistakes is very important. When she comes home, will you be friends? I don't know, sweetie, but I hope we can at least be kind to each other. That night I wrote to Vivian for the first time, a brief letter. Clara asked about you today. She wanted to know if we would be friends when you're released. I told her I didn't know, but I hoped we could be kind to each other. That's still my hope. Not friendship. That may be impossible after everything that happened. But basic human kindness, civil cooperation for Clara's sake. You have 5 years left. Use them wisely. Her response came 2 weeks later. Thank you for being honest with Clara. Thank you for not poisoning her against me, even though you have every right to. I'm learning in therapy that I spent my whole life viewing people as either useful or obstacles. You were an obstacle to what I wanted, so I treated you terribly. Clara is teaching me, even from a distance, that people have inherent worth beyond their usefulness to me. It's a hard lesson to learn at 38, but I'm trying. I'll never be able to repay what I took from you, not just the jewelry and money, but the 8 years of dignity and peace you lost because of me. All I can do is try to become someone who would never do that to another person again. 5 more years. I'll use them wisely. I promise. I showed the letter to Richard. Do you believe her? Does it matter? She's still serving her time. She still faces consequences. Whether her change is genuine won't be clear until she's released and tested by the real world. But you think there's a chance? I think losing everything, her freedom, her marriage, her child's early years, has forced her to reckon with herself in ways she never had to before. Could be real. Could be the longest con. Time will tell. 5 years later, Vivian was released on parole. She didn't come to my house. She didn't ask to see Clara immediately. Instead, she got a modest apartment, a regular job as a bookkeeper, and began the slow process of rebuilding her life under strict parole conditions. Her first visit with Clara was supervised at a neutral location. I watched from a distance as an 8-year-old girl met the mother she barely remembered. You look different from your pictures, Clara said. I am different, Vivian replied. I'm working very hard to be different. Over the following months, visits gradually increased. Vivian was cautious, humble, nothing like the entitled woman who'd stolen from me a decade ago. The first time she saw me after her release, we met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Helena, she said quietly, thank you for meeting me. I'm here for Clara's sake. I know, and I'm grateful. She paused. I've wanted to say this in person for 8 years. I'm sorry for all of it, for stealing from you, for abusing you, for trying to have you declared incompetent so I could take everything. I'm sorry for making you feel invisible in your own home. I'm sorry for the years you lost feeling safe and respected." I studied her face. She looked older, worn down by prison and consequences, but there was something genuine in her eyes I'd never seen before. "Are you sorry you did it? Or sorry you got caught?" "Both, honestly. I'm sorry I got caught because getting caught destroyed my life. But I'm also genuinely sorry I did it because I finally understand the pain I caused. That's the difference 8 years of forced self-reflection creates." "What do you want from me, Vivian?" "Nothing. Truly nothing. I know I'll never be welcome in your home. I know we'll never be family. I'm just asking for basic civility when we're both at Clara's school events or birthday parties. For her sake, basic civility I can manage." "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." We talked for an hour, not as friends, probably never as friends, but as two people who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side. "Helena," she said as we prepared to leave, "I need you to know something. Everything you had, the house, the collection, the life Marcus built for you, I was jealous. Not just greedy, jealous. I grew up with nothing. When I saw what you had, I wanted to take it because I thought I deserved it more. And now? Now I understand that you can't steal your way to deserving things. You have to earn respect and build a life and be someone others trust. I'm trying to be that person now, not for rewards or to get anything back, just because that's who I need to be for Clara." After she left, I called Richard. I think she might actually have changed. "Time will tell. But Helena, either way, you won. You protected yourself. You got justice. You saved other families from being victimized. And you did it all while still showing grace to your grandchild's mother. That's not just winning. That's wisdom. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. If my story resonated with you, consider sending a super thanks to help me share more stories of quiet strength and true justice. Your support means everything. What would you have done in my position? How do you balance justice with mercy when family betrays you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And let me know where in the world you're listening from. Knowing these stories reach you wherever you are reminds me why sharing them matters. If you want more stories about finding courage, demanding respect, and rebuilding after betrayal, subscribe to this channel. There are so many more stories waiting for you. Remember, being kind doesn't mean being weak. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to be invisible anymore. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Your presence in this community matters. Until the next story, stay strong, stay true, and never forget your worth.